Hey, it's Billy. We're getting a little worried about Colorado football back here.
Because people keep transferring?
Oh, I was just looking at the schedule, and I don't know if you want to do wins and losses with us down the thing, but I think there's a chance Colorado might win 0 games this year, which would be really, really bad.
Oh, man. Would it?
I mean, because they won 1 last year, right? But they do not have an easy schedule at all. And we were just kind of looking at it saying, like, where do they win? Is it TCU, Dan, week 1?
I don't want to play wins and losses. We have done already that their first 5 games are really hard, and they're going to lose whatever momentum they have in the first 5 games. But what is success? Because we're allowed to give them a second, no? Or
No.
Does Deion and his brand allow for, hey, give me a second?
Okay, but
because he gets by on all bravado, and he's always been a front-running coach. He's always had these really talented teams at lower levels that dominate from the outset. So how will the Coach Prime gimmick?
I want him to succeed. Let me get out ahead and say that. I want him to succeed, but I also kind of see this may blow up. And then what happens?
Well, I'm assuming he's going to get his ass kicked for the first year, because maybe you could do it the way Lincoln Riley does. You show up at USC with the same number of portal and transfer players, and immediately USC goes from an average program to a borderline contender program. But Colorado's really bad. They've been bad for years. They haven't been USC. They've been really bad, and I don't expect anybody to be able to get there and turn it around, even in the modern age of mercenaries, in 1 year.
But if you talk to people around the program, they already don't have control, and they're kind of getting pushed around by Deion Sanders. We've never seen Deion Sanders really have to deal with adversity as the person running a program.
It's going to be great content is the answer to your question. And I'm assuming, you think people out there are assuming, well, Deion will get there with his Louis Vuitton bags and all his portal guys.
A lot of those bags are getting lost at the airport, my friend.
And he's going to be able to beat the elite powers. What's the schedule at the beginning, Billy? Who do they have?
Ooh, W's and L's. I love this. All right, at TCU.
Tough game.
L.
That's an L.
That's an L.
That's an L. Then versus Nebraska, but in New York, Nebraska.
Who did Colorado beat last year? They won 2 games, correct? Colorado won twice.
They won 1 game last year.
Who did they beat?
They beat Cal, I believe. I'll tell you right now. They won 1 game. They beat Cal, yeah.
I mean, low bar. Deion's only got to win 2 games for it to be a success on the season.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the pivot, but does Coach Prime really celebrate
double the wins?
I'm
winning
season?
Twice as much. I brought twice as much winning to
Pretty
your
tough
program.
to argue with.
The more information I get about what's going on at Colorado, the more I run through that schedule and do dubs and L's, which I hope we hold your feet to the flame.
Yeah, it was Nebraska, W or an L.
Matt Rule, I think, is the
first
coach
home
of
game. Matt Rule is the coach. The tickets are over $400. Very pricey ticket.
If he won, that would rule.
Oh, jeez.
All right, go sit in the penalty box.
Yeah.
Yep.
See ya. Why'd you?
Bye-bye.
I mean, I don't understand how you had the confidence to do that.
He didn't have the confidence. He had the space. And
So
we have to address that.
WL. What are we thinking?
Nebraska, I don't want to do wins
In Colorado.
and losses.
I think that one's an L, though.
I'm going to put an L too. Now, here's where things get interesting. They host Colorado State. I think that's their best shot.
That's their best
rivalry
shot
game,
for a
too.
dub.
It
It's
is.
a big rivalry game.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado State has been one of the worst programs.
Wait, is that a neutral site game or they host it? Because usually that's at Mile High.
But it's a rivalry game, and I don't
I've
think
had a lot of great moments. Who can forget Bradley Van Pelt and them boys, John Mosier taking back a kickoff return?
Put it on the poll as well, Juju. Has Colorado State done anything since Sonny Lubick left? Because I don't believe Colorado State has been any good for 20 years.
It looks like it's at Folsom Field in Boulder.
Okay, so that's a huge
game.
advantage. Let's call that a dub.
Wow, okay, there we go.
All right, so
we've
now they're off to a hot start
1 and 2.
comparatively.
Well, we've equaled last season's win total 3 weeks in, so that's good.
That's great.
But then
House
you
money.
head to Oregon.
Yeah, that's an L.
That's
Tough game.
probably
It's a
an
tough
L.
game, yeah.
And then you come back home and you host USC. I mean,
L.
That's probably another one, right? Then you go over to Arizona State.
Also new look.
Team in flux.
They got a shot.
Now, on
But
the
also
road-
Arizona
wait a
State's
minute.
looking at their calendar. Being
Let's
like,
circle
yeah,
back to that one.
Wait, no. Mike says you got a shot. I'm going to go ahead and say on the front end, you asked me where my expectations are.
Yeah.
My expectations are that Colorado will not be able, with its schedule, to win a road game. of any kind.
Well, then that's an L because that's on
any,
the road.
Of
That's
any
an L.
kind.
That's an L.
You know what was like the most unsettling part of last year's college football season? I saw Arizona State playing a day game.
Yeah, that was.
I had never seen that before.
That's true. I saw
And
that.
their team name is the Sun Devils, but I'd never seen them during the day.
Well, you're used to. Usually on an AstroTurf field, and usually when you've lost money gambling for the day.
Chasing.
Not just chasing, but chasing offense.
Yeah.
Chasing, let's run all over the field and see if you can get me an over here in the first
This
half.
quarterback looks athletic. Yeah. It's usually Oregon State, Arizona State, and it's a primer before Timmy Chang and them boys.
Did Herm Edwards have anything in the way of what can be considered success as a pro coach who went to the
He took his firing very well on the field.
Yeah. I think he knew.
Anything else we need to do here?
Well, no. Then they come home for a Friday game against Stanford. That one.
Also a new look Stanford. It's no longer David Shaw and them
Friday
boys.
game too.
A Friday. It's a quick turnaround.
That's a Friday game.
Well, Billy, let
Hey.
me ask you, what are you rooting for here? Because I'm rooting here for the content of chaos.
Well, I mean, I would love for him to succeed, but I'm looking at the schedule and I see that I don't know what's going to happen. And also, when they hired him, they said we don't have the money to do this.
That's correct.
So if you don't have the money to do this, and then you start out 1-6 at this point, I think 1-5, then what happens?
They are interesting, and they are in the currency of the day, which is attention. It's attention. You will be paying attention to the losses in a way that you haven't paid attention to Colorado in 30 years.
Right now, it's really good times in Colorado. They're selling out their spring games. They have all this attention. And even if people jettison, you have the social capital of Deion Sanders saying, we're purging the roster. We don't want them here. But if you know what's going on, there is no way they want to lose players of this caliber, even for a Colorado team that won one game last year. They're also losing recruits. That has nothing to do with purging your roster of the bad apples. So I don't know how this is going to work if he's 1-7, and I do think you're going to get chaos either way. If he's good and he pulls off a shocking upset, like he doesn't have to be bowl eligible in year one. But if he knocks out like a USC, if he wins at TCU, if he wins at Oregon, you could already see the seeds of this working.
But if you fail publicly, is that better than failing privately?
I'm just giving him a year. I'm giving him a year. Put it on the poll,
will
please.
he give himself a year?
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's my thing. Like, how will he handle a year of this schedule where they're going to be underdogs in most of those games and substantial underdogs? How will he handle it?
What was the Stanford WRL, though, just for record?
I don't know
keeping,
what
Jim?
they're going to look like
Quick
without David
turnaround.
Shaw.
I'll put
Quick
an L
turnaround.
there.
Are you
Okay,
gonna keep
at
going?
UCLA, you said
I
all
don't
road
wanna-
losses,
UCLA is
so
gonna
we'll
win.
give that an
Chip
L.
I
Kelly
don't want to
and them
do
boys.
this
Back
for the whole
home against
segment. I don't
Oregon
wanna do
State.
this. Okay.
The
I-
Oregon
Braves.
State, I mean, they have
Right.
Uyunglele now as their quarterback. Yeah.
Is he any good?
We'll find
Because
out.
I think he'll be better there. Like,
What?
Oregon State was feisty last year. They were really
but
good.
he was not any good when he was Clemson's quarterback.
bad.
He was
Yeah, but
really bad.
Clemson was unimaginative. Like, that's a good quarterback for Oregon State. In terms of talent level, they haven't had that talent at that quarterback
I
position.
look
for
at
a
him
while.
and I see field goals.
All
Okay.
right, so then I'll put a W, and then we have the two
Man,
wins. and
Oregon
then this
State
is
was
a
good
season.
last year.
Wait a minute.
man.
I'm not making
Oh.
that a W. I'm simply
Okay, then
giving
L.
you.
Then L. Okay,
All
we'll
right,
go back
stop
to an L.
it.
Sorry.
I don't want to do this
Versus
anymore.
Arizona.
I don't want. That's it. I'm checking.
There's only
out.
three
Nope,
more. We
nope,
might as well
not gonna-
finish here.
nope,
Versus
not gonna do it
Arizona. He
anymore.
Does not have the quarterback advantage against Oregon State.
The thing that I wanted to
Wildcats, then.
ask all of you was about
Speed.
an NBA ref, Eric Lewis, being caught as a Twitter burner account. This happened yesterday, and an NBA ref.
It was a pro officiating burner.
And people like saw what he was commenting on, and they realized he was caught as an NBA ref in the shadows defending a little vigilantly things around Eric Lewis, too vigilantly to not be noticed that, hey, this is an NBA ref in here. That account has since been deleted, Mike. I see you at your phone trying to find it. You will not find it because it's him. You will not find the account anymore. The account is now gone. He is hoping no one has noticed this, I am assuming.
What would this account tweet like? Oh, Eric Lewis really nailed that call.
Well,
Eric Lewis is having a great game.
It was he had a lot of opinions on a variety of different basketball related things that made it clear, hey, is this Eric Lewis? Is this NBA? He was not good enough at disguising all of this.
Dude, the idea of a burner account is just totally lost on me. I am not someone of tremendous repute, and I don't pay attention to anyone on social media, really.
That's true.
Unless it's people that I know.
At Washington State, Friday game, another one.
Eric
Wazoo.
Lewis is someone whose name I did not know until yesterday, until this controversy. This was not
the burner account was Blair Cutliff.
Put that one down as an L.
You have to look at some of what is being said here on this account, Mike, because there are people following it. And I think I'd like to end this segment with you simply reading a variety of tweets from the Eric Lewis burner account.
Lakers being swept despite no Eric Lewis. I don't think he was the problem, said the burner account.
And we finish up at Utah. That's an L, Dan. At Utah. I'll just put an L, yeah.
Heat versus refs. He replied to that account once by "That ain't true. Stop spreading lies." GTFOH.
Wow, 11-1.
What is his pseudonym? What is the
Blair
name?
Cutliff.
How embarrassing was it for him when the walls started closing in and he looked up and he realized, oh my God, they're on to me? They might know. Blair might have to go into hiding. Blair had to delete his account because he got caught as an NBA. NBA referees are to be not heard, not noticed, not talked about.
He replied at someone, quote, butt juice.
He has a per diem and a great union, and just it's a really good job to fly all over the place. All you have to do is not that. All you have to do is just keep floating along without anyone. You don't want to be Scott Foster. You don't want to be you don't want to be Ed Malloy. You don't want to be any of these names that people know and associate with, oh, the league is fixed. And you don't want to hide in the shadows as a burner account and have that be the only thing I know about you. I wish that the audience could have heard what was happening during the break, where Tony and Jeremy decided together. And this happened and escalated quickly because these are thoughts that were not happening 6 quarters ago. But the general prevailing theme was the season will be fine as long as it gets past Boston. Like, if it gets to Denver and we're all wandering around the streets and it's like, yeah, of course, Jokic beat them. Look at him. I mean,
look at this guy.
He's doing soccer throw-ins from the back of his, from the back of his head. He's rolling to his left on a left-footed, one-footed step back, throwing the ball at the basket in a way that is not a basketball shot that anyone ever takes who isn't in a panic or who knows how to play basketball, and it goes in 3 times to sweep LeBron. They're all like, yeah, you lose to Jokic, it's fine. But you don't want to be the first team ever to cough up 3-0.
That's it.
And this is why I'm telling you, you guys say the fear's not here yet. Well, it's around the corner. It's get behind in Game 6 and see if the fear doesn't arrive. Get behind double digits in Game 6 and see if you start trying to talk yourself into, well, they do well in these scenarios. They come back even though you have seen last year 3 times on your home floor. Boston dragged you 3 times. And that Boston team, they're good. You know that the aberration was the first 3 games. You saw the TNT crew speechless after Game 2. Charles, speechless, just with mouths hanging open. How the hell did this happen? Because the expectation is that Boston is better. Now, the truth of the matter is, and this is where it gets scary for both sides, These two teams have been the same for 3-4 years. Like, it's Bam at the basket blocking Tatum. It's Jimmy one shot for the Eastern Conference. They're the same. We can make it a 1 and an 8 and everything else. But what began as no one's come back from 3-0 now becomes, hey, how many have come back from 3-2? Because I just saw Boston do it against the MVP. I saw Boston look like they were on the ropes and then go into Philadelphia. And that's the game I expect in Miami. I'm not saying Boston will win it, but I expect it to be like, oh my God, everyone on both sides is terrified because they know the consequences of feeling like I've got 2 days of fear as a Heat fan because now I know I'm going into Boston, and Boston's going to be like a 7 or an 8-point favorite at home.
And now you have supremely confident Boston Celtics fans. Even our friend Charlotte Wilder, you remember how she worked herself into a frenzy after a 24-hour delay. And now she's pulling a Ryan Cortez. She's calling radio stations. Listen to this.
Let's go down to South Beach and let's talk to Charlotte. You're on CBS Sports Radio.
Hey there. Yeah, Charlotte from South Beach, longtime listener, first-time caller. What are we doing here? Jimmy and Bam didn't have that dog in them tonight, and they can't keep turning the ball over like that. And, psych. Celtics in 7, baby. Let's go. Marcus Smart told you don't let him get 1.
That was a creative call. 855-212-4CBS.
The funny part about that is WQAM was in network coverage because we care so little about our basketball team compared to Boston.
There was a guy in a closet somewhere doing a radio show for like $100, and he's like, "Let's go down to South Beach because I'm in Baltimore. I don't know. Who cares?"
I was listening. I'm like, who's the QAM host that's hosting this? That's not Tommy Tig. What is
Alex
this?
Solana?
This is such a crappy impersonation, all of it. I asked her to play Sweet Caroline. I asked her to. She went.
No, that one's better.
Yeah,
actually.
she made a better choice
Yeah,
there.
that's a much better choice. That one's more associated with Boston.
And, psych. Celtics in 7, baby. Let's go. Marcus Smart told you don't let him get 1.
That was a creative call. 855-212-4CBS.
The host couldn't care less. Our market couldn't care less.
That is not a South Florida radio person. That's someone doing a show that is aired in South Florida, as Tony said, from some sort of sad, end-of-career existent late-night Baltimore radio station.
Because we long ago made the decision, overnights, not for us down here.
The fear is around the corner if it has not yet arrived. You know that I...
And, psych.
We didn't play Listen Pal enough yesterday.
Listen, pal.
There is going to be such a good parade of gas bags from us after
Fat Dan Le Batard.
Listen, pal.
After game three, if the Heat become the first ever to
Psych.
I'm worried there could be a parade of gas bag of just everything I've said, so I'm kind of shaking. You're not alone in this. There's somebody else who lives in another state who will be first and foremost out of everything.
7, baby. Let's go. Marcus Smart told you don't let him get 1.
You saw that Jaylen Brown said, "Don't let us get 3."
Listen, pal.
Fat Dan Le Batard.
Oh, come on. I saw that headline yesterday from the Big Lead, and I'm like, really?
And your fat daddy.
I mean, you didn't put my fat daddy in the headline.
Sweet Miss Lourdes. I'll see you Saturday.
No, you put Fat Dan Le Batard is all you
Fat
put.
Dan Le Batard.
Gratuitous.
I was on the screen. I was like, listen, pal. Uncalled for. Chuck, come on. What are you doing?
Everything's gonna be alright.
Is it?
Yeah. Everything's gonna be alright.
I wanted to ask all of you, Stephen A. Smith, I don't know if we have this sound. I did see it in one of the Slack channels, but I don't know if we have it readily available. Stephen A. Smith has basically just said flatly, I want to be remembered as the greatest television talent in history. And when he said it, my reaction was the same as it was when Mark Jackson called originally Steph Curry and Klay Thompson the best shooting backcourt ever. Before they'd actually done anything other than shoot, they hadn't won any championships, and Mark Jackson said, as their coach, this is the best shooting tandem ever. And my response was, oh, get out of here. And then I thought about it, oh, maybe. And in this instance, I had the same sort of reaction when it's like, oh, come on, Stephen A. And then I'm like, well, who would it be? Because is it Regis Philbin?
I mean, this is so, like, you locked into your sports brain. Yeah. There's Dick Clark. There's Ryan Seacrest. There's Walter Cronkite.
Please. I submit
There's
to the courts.
Barbara Walter. There's Oprah Winfrey.
Nick
Steve
Cannon.
Harvey. Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey is a good one.
Come on, Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
When he says, you guys seem to be in agreement, greatest television talent ever.
You can make the argument in sports here in America, yeah.
It's just not something that actually requires
Actually, he's behind Howard Cosell in my book.
Wow.
a great
Really?
deal of actual talent. All of the people that you mentioned, I don't think of them as uniquely talented at the doing of television.
You sound silly if you think Stephen A's not talented.
Yeah.
He's
Get
incredibly
outta here.
talented. He's on the medal stand all time for sports media personalities. Yeah.
He
Not
also has
just
a
talent,
serious
but
acting role.
effective.
He's in General Hospital.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
he's incredible. I mean, it's not an insult to rank the man behind Howard Cosell.
Yeah, a little bit.
It is.
He wasn't doing just sports.
That's asinine. It's asinine. Can Stephen A. Smith host the Oscars?
Oh, he thinks he
Easily.
can.
I know he
Oh,
thinks
yeah,
he
he
can.
could.
Easily.
He
I
could
know
easily.
he thinks he can, but can he host it and be good?
Why can't he? Yeah.
Because there's a
incredible.
lot of super talented people that host it and aren't good.
Now I'm starting to think that Stephen A. might be like Jimmy Butler. Like if he just thinks he can kind of do it.
He thinks that he could be a stand-up comic.
Have you seen him cover MMA?
He's good.
Oh, is he?
He's good at everything he does, guys.
Wait a minute, Tony. I feel like
He's
you
good
were
at
just-
everything he does.
You're shying away from the microphone.
Tony, you're not being honest.
Have
right
you
now.
seen him try to promo the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Oh,
He's got his strengths,
But
right?
if that was his only job, he'd be great at
He'd
it.
be
He
incredible
just has
at it.
too many jobs
Get
right
him
now.
in a judge situation where he's like a judge.
Oh, Stephen
He'd
A. on
kill
America's
it.
Got Talent.
Please.
See, like
He'd give the prize to himself.
He would have gotten OJ off.
Mad Dog Russo can legitimately talk about almost everything. You're taking soccer out of the equation, whatever. We live in America, but Stephen A. is limited to football and basketball. He can do a couple of
very
like
dangerous.
Yankees things, but he certainly can do boxing. Yes. But he can't do if he can't do hockey. You expect him to host the Oscars?
What?
Well, this is the thing that he's doing that I think is not entirely fair when he mentioned someone like Carol Burnett.
Can he do college football?
Or
Yes.
He cannot do college. They don't
Put him
cover
on game
college.
day.
They don't
Brother,
cover
put him
college
on game day. Let him shine. He would dominate.
Boom.
Let him shine. He would dominate.
Well,
Real hoopers know.
what you're doing, Mike, that's unfair is go ahead and put Dick Clark on NHL hockey. See how that goes.
No, but go ahead
Well,
and
he's
put
dead,
No,
so-
that's
that'd
not
be
what I'm
kinda
doing. I'm putting
impossible.
Dick Clark on on a game show. I'm putting Dick Clark on New Year's Rockin' Eve. I'm putting Dick Clark at award shows. I'm keeping Stephen A. in his sports box. He can't do hockey, can't do college football. He can barely do baseball. He can do two things better than damn near anyone has ever done it.
He would kill a New Year's Eve broadcast.
Oh, my
Imagine
God.
him.
I would
in a
watch.
Suit.
I would watch.
I would love
guys,
With
guys,
a bottle of champagne.
guys.
Come
on.
Come
All
on.
right,
Come on.
all right.
I would
Yeah.
love it.
Have you watched the Stephen A. broadcast, the unique NBA basketball broadcast?
Don't
Have
need
you
to.
watched it?
Don't need to. I know
Incredible.
he's great.
Not a
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you
So
watched
good.
it?
Don't need
Yeah,
to.
no, it's great.
No,
It's great.
No one can do anything.
No
in
one
those
could.
4
You know what?
minutes.
No one else can do is look me in the eyes when I'm posing them these questions.
They are all looking away. It was interesting. They don't feel confident in their arguments.
Well, Tony's looking up treasure.
Well,
on,
what's
that's a
going
different
on with you?
story.
You've been talking about buried treasure for 3
Dan,
days.
You have 35 seconds.
I'll do it. Dan, I don't think there's any more buried treasure left. I think it's all been taken away. I don't think with people out there searching, trying to find buried treasure, it's all gone. They all took it. It's all gone. It's all in different places. We're looking for nothing.
Billy, you're an asshole.
He really is. He really is. This is such a more
lobbed that. He knew we had 30
conversation.
seconds left in the segment, and he's just
been so excited to talk about treasure.
I am.
Dan.
I'm
wanted
really
to give him
excited
a
about
chance.
the
Wanted to
treasure.
deflect
I
from
saw a
having
movie.
to answer
All right,
that Stephen A.
8,
question.
7 seconds.
He's great at
I've
MMA.
never seen Billy happier than you have 30 seconds.
Dead
Tony.
fish in my lap.